School has become a game. It's a game of letters, points, and grades. And in this game, unfortunately, over time, there have become some winners and some losers. Typically, these are the students. Now, I'd like to ask you a question. Imagine that you needed surgery, and there were three surgeons to choose from. Each had the same success rate with the operation that you needed. How would you go about choosing which surgeon operated on you? This decision would be difficult, but I wonder if it would impact your decision at all to choose a surgeon if you knew that one had improved over time, the other had become a poorer performer, while the third had inconsistent success with the operation. Perhaps it's this overall average that doesn't give us enough information. And this overall average is the basis for the points chasing game that leads to the winners and losers in school. Based on behaviors, task completion, and actions, this is detracting from the main goal of teaching and learning. A possible resolution is a standards-based approach that may help de-gamify school. Standardizing education is nothing new, and it actually dates back hundreds of years to the Jesuits. The basic idea is to create a common learning experience centered on a curriculum. The shift in moving from a traditional to a standards-based approach is a difficult one because it's a shift in thinking. It requires abandoning fixed measures of overall progress for dynamic approaches of teaching, learning, and feedback. In a traditional classroom, the overall grade is the focus, along with any behaviors that may lead to a better grade. However, in the standards-based approach, the only thing that matters is learning, and in that way, we keep learning at the forefront of a classroom. Keeping learning at the forefront can be accomplished through a tool we already know in education, the rubric. Traditionally, rubrics contain a lot of great feedback about student learning, but the focus tends to be on the bottom line, grade. If we get rid of the bottom line grade and implement a system that's standards-based, we can provide better feedback for students. This requires first identifying goals, designing assessments, realigning instruction, and creating a better reporting tool to meet those needs. Initiating a standards-based learning system begins with identifying standards in the classroom and a school. Instead of following a linear sequence of teach, learn, test, move on, the standards-based classroom uses assessment as a way to connect teaching to learning. It all starts with classrooms that identify the learning outcomes or objectives that students need to achieve. These should be action-oriented and worded in first-person language, such as I can compare the structures of the kidney with its function in the body. Then, instruction must be shifted to revolve around the specific learning objectives that were identified. Lessons, activities, and assignments need to be explicitly connected to the standards so it can become apparent how teaching actions relate to learning. Assessments can no longer be a measure of how many points were earned on each question. Instead, individual questions and assessments must be linked to standards and rated according to a performance rubric. This shifts away from right and wrong and moves closer towards mastery. Along the lines of achieving mastery requires some deliberate practice, and in that case, homework no longer becomes a task of completion, but rather a way to improve and get better in understanding the learning standards. Over time, grades have become a valuation of students' worth, a fixed measure or marker of their intelligence. However, in rating performance against a rubric, not merely adding up all the points, students see grades as feedback. The final component of a standards-based learning system is providing opportunity for the feedback that comes from grades to help move students in the direction of mastery. This means that when they see assessment scores suggesting they need to practice their verb conjugation, they should have an opportunity to demonstrate improved performance later and override previous scores. This will require some buy-in, and gaining the support of stakeholders will require that you use students as ambassadors and ensure that they have a strong understanding of the system. Abandoning a traditional system that has become a game will help students to move from seeing themselves as either being good or bad at playing the game to seeing that they can have a growth mindset towards school and move eventually towards mastery in their understanding. The traditional learning system, where a student doesn't fully develop a skill for a test, then their grade forever shows that they don't know it, is no longer a factor. In this way, we keep teaching and learning connected to the standards and the focus of the classroom. In the end, educators are in the business of helping students to achieve success, but because the traditional approach to school has disenfranchised so many, we need to find a way to make it seem more attainable. Success through standards is the way to go.